questions? I have a full stash from Tom, so... Okay, Vikrant says, in one of my dreams, I had an experience which I would like to share and would like you to comment. I don't remember the content of the dream, but it seemed that the momentum or the flow of my dream activity was due to the fact that I was lending awareness to it. It seemed like that my awareness was the fuel on which the flow of dream activity depended. At that time, I realized that if I could somehow withdraw my awareness from the flow of mind activity, the flow of mind activity, which was a dream at that time, would stop. But I was unable to withdraw my awareness, and so the flow continued. Is it similar in the waking state also? Which means that since I am lending awareness to the waking state flow of conscious activity, the flow continues, and hence I experience life, and once I withdraw my awareness, the flow stops, and I would be in my original state, which is my pure being. So in a nutshell, what I am asking is, does the flow of life happen because I am lending awareness to it? Now, there is a difference between the flow in the dream, which is only mind activity, and the flow in the waking state, which depending upon whether the world exists independently of mind or not, the flow is mind's activity, plural, or minds and universe activity. So there is a difference. Obviously, mind, if there is no awareness of mind, there is no mind. And therefore there is no mind activity. So, because the substance of the dream is mind and therefore awareness, if awareness is withdrawn from it, the flow stops. regarding the daily flow, we have to understand that to see awareness as reality. And obviously, if reality is withdrawn, then the flow, the universal flow, stops. But not if mind is withdrawn. That's very important. The absence of a mind doesn't mean the disappearance of reality. Minds disappear. Reality doesn't. So, to answer your question, what I am asking is, does the flow of life happen because I'm lending awareness to it? The answer is yes, the flow of life happens because you as awareness/reality are lending reality to it. Someone wants a link to watch the program, and others have not get the link or the password, so I send you. I forward it to you.
From today? From yesterday?
So it was from 2 hours ago. Apparently others have not received it either. Not in his spam folder. Another question from Vikrant. I am curious to know your views on right moments. There seems to be in the unfolding of this vast universe that every moment is perfect, and sometimes we feel that things unfold perfectly and reach a climax during a certain moment, and if the moment passes, it cannot be recreated no matter how much we try. It seems that the whole universe plays a part in creating that moment, and it happens spontaneously. For example, in a gathering of friends, the flow of conversations pass on until someone cracks a joke at the perfect moment, and everyone laughs, whereas perhaps if the joke would have been pre-planned or probably spoken at the wrong time, the response is nowhere close. Also, when you are in love and spending time with your lover, there are moments which seem to be just perfect. To propose or become intimate, whereas not all moments are like that. These moments can happen during live performances also, and it seems that consciousness unfolds perfectly in its own way. And if we allow it to unfold as it happens, it's always perfect. However, when mind comes in and interferes in the flow of this consciousness unfolding, it's always not that perfect. Can you talk a little bit about these perfect moments and whether consciousness manifests every moment perfectly, and why some moments seem perfect whereas some moments do not? Ultimately, all moments are perfect. It's just that we fail to see the perfection of them. Now, some moments are perfect, but they are not as memorable as the type of moments you're talking about. There are moments of that, in a sense, set up the moment of understanding, the moment when the real change occurs, the pivotal moment. The setup moments are necessary and therefore as important as the aha moment. The setup of the joke, all the preparation up to the punchline is necessary. If someone doesn't know how to tell the joke, it's not going to be as enjoyable, not because the punchline is different, but because the setup was not as artfully organized or delivered. So yes, there are moments of understanding in which everything comes to a halt, and when the truth shines like a flash of lightning. Ultimately, all moments are perfect. The perfection is hidden to the extent that we believe to be a separate consciousness. In some moments, this perfection shines in all its majesty. Luciana, when the glimpse happens in the most unlikely places, it is more powerful because it simultaneously changes you and those places. Like Wittgenstein said, the world of the happy man is a different one to that of the unhappy man. I've always considered this a great insight, but now for me the difference it speaks about is one between being knowingly and being unknowingly the dream, and it feels even more true. Wittgenstein also said, quote, "What we cannot speak about, we must pass over in silence." And indeed, all you talk about comes from and point back to the silence. But I'm curious. I don't understand why direct path teachers don't do speeches nor like to write books, unless as collections of previously asked questions and answers. Is it something to do with spontaneity or what else? First, I don't like the expression direct path teachers. As I've told you, for me, it's meaningless. It's something that was kind of the result of a misunderstanding in the early internet era. So, now, why? I don't know about other teachers, actually. And I have nothing against teachers doing speeches. However, in this case, I don't like doing speeches. Because usually speeches require some kind of preparation. And that's work. And due to my ethnic origin in southern climates, we are here teachers not of the direct paths, but of the holy laziness. So, why should I write a book if I don't like writing? And I know how to write. I had very good grades at school, but I just hated it. And let me tell you the story why I hated it. I loved it while I was in elementary school. And why? Because they asked us to write stories. I love to write stories. They had a certain word for that in French. They call it a narration, which means, well, a story, a fiction. I loved it. I loved to write a little poem also when I was a kid. Unfortunately, when you come to high school, it's no longer about writing story. It's about how to teach you to be a literary critic. That's all you have to do. You have to write no longer stories. You have to write essays about dead people and what these dead people have written. You know, it's so boring that it gives you, for the rest of your lifetime, allergy to writing. Yes, sir? So, here is why. Because of allergy, I don't like to write books. So, but there might be a book coming out with the help of a friend ghostwriter. Which a book, as you said, that wouldn't be a collection of previously asked questions and answers. But I'm not sure it will be a library success. I'm not sure it will make it at the bestseller lists on the New York Times. I have a few doubts, not only a few, about it. And to tell you the truth, I am not sure that it will be as interesting as the ones that you kind of, in a kind of dismissive way, describe as, what is his name? Collections of previously asked questions and answers. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I have news for you. It is a literary style. Why should we write essay, especially if you are allergic to write essay? Question and answers is a beautiful literary style. After all, another literary style is letters, right? Letters. It's a literary style, letters. And question and answer is one. Why denigrate it? Why are you so unhappy about that? Why do you want something else? Moreover, who cares about the form in which the truth gets delivered if it gets delivered? Who cares about the bottle provided we get drunk? When I was in love with truth, I was not that picky. I would joyfully read all these traditional Indian Gitas and Ashtavakra Gita, Ribu Gita, etc., most of which, or the Vivekachudamani, and all of those are made of questions and answers. Of course, embellished over time through the various transmissions, but Yeah. Any questions here? No?
I don't know if you have any interest in this topic, but I just wondered if you thought time travel was possible or not.
Yeah. It would be very dangerous going through a wormhole in the space-time manifold. I'm not sure we would survive. It's no, man. I'm really interested only in practical questions. So that is highly hypothetical. And I mean, modern physics teaches us very interesting elements about time. One of which is the interconnection between time and space. We see time and space as independent, but it is not the case, and it is a proven fact that time and space are not independent. And moreover, modern physics also teaches us that time, space, or space-time on one hand, and matter and energy on the other hand, are not independent either. So that the presence of matter or of energy changes the flow of time. And that's also a proven fact. So all of that is very interesting and kind of mind-blowing because it changes the simplistic views we have in our everyday life of time and space as being two absolutes. We have to admit that this is only an appearance, and it appears to be so only at our human scale. But at intergalactic scale, it's no longer the case. So that's very interesting. I mean, if we could see what it implies, it's simply mind-blowing. All the concepts we have about time and space, I mean, get deeply shaken by that.
Hello, Francis. Is it possible that Santa Claus will be making an appearance in the new book?
I don't know. Perhaps we have put him yet already. I'm sure he's one of my favorite characters, so he may show up. Unless we decide for the book to be more serious and more academic, more academically correct, which is a possibility just to poke a little bit, you know, you need to speak their language a little bit. So then, in which case, we wouldn't put Santa Claus in the picture. We would do something else. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to announce a preview of the book, which will be a great success on Amazon Kindle.
So yesterday I said something and I was derailed a bit, but I really wanted to talk about sound. But today I want to go back because I think what I said back to...
About, you wanted to talk about sound?
Yesterday I wanted an answer about sound.
Sound.
I had a hard time with sound.
Sound.
And that was great and a nice answer. And I'm being with it. I'm sitting there. But now I want to talk about the sensations, bodily sensations, just to make sure that I don't have it messed up. So I believe what I said was that they were borderless. The sensations are borderless. And you went, no, whoa. And I thought about it, and they don't have any solid borders. They seem sort of cloud-like. And
well, it depends what we call border, because they have a very clear border in time, usually. A sound has a beginning and an end. So that's already a border.
Okay. In time, yeah.
For instance, I don't know, have you heard the earthquake?
Yeah, wasn't it cool?
Okay, so it had a clear beginning and a clear end, right?
Yes, it was neat. It was really good. I've never heard one so well before.
I was in my bathtub and bloom.
I was sitting on the rock out there. It was like, whoa.
It's amazing how you can feel the elasticity of the earth.
Yes.
The elasticity that it does that, but there is a little.
It vibrates.
Yeah,
how much energy does it take to shake?
A little. It's like it's God playing the guitar.
Yeah.
It's exactly like plucking a string, because that's what it does. And the plate are just letting go of some tension that was accumulated. It's exactly.
Really neat. Yeah. It was a good earthquake. And then today in the yoga, there was an emphasis on breathing and the sensations of breathing kind of happening on their own in the space. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I could redo the entire thing.
Okay.
I mean. What is interesting is when you do that, the advanced yoga is not the mastery of a difficult posture, physically difficult posture, such as a peacock or standing on the head, but it is how the transparency and the borderlessness are delivered by the experiments you are conducting. So what is interesting is to see to see in hindsight whether you can see a difference between what was the condition in the beginning and then at the end. And not that we are trying to reach a state, but rather than we are trying to connect with something which is already there, which is available, which is just being obfuscated by agitation.
And so those experiments we can do those all the time, anytime. True. I mean, that would be...
But ultimately, it's not when you do it, it's not that important That which is important is that which remains. And most, even if we are unaware of it, it stays with us. You see? The most important part stays with us. Yes, so the sounds, yes, they have another limitations of the sound is, for instance, if you take a musical sound, would be the frequency. A C is not a C sharp, right? So there are all kinds of limitations in duration, in frequency. Also in localization, you can say this sound comes from the left or this sound comes from my right. To the origin, to the the intensity of the vibration. I mean, there are so many parameters that limit the sound.
Somehow, I'm sort of having fun with the sense the distance between me and the kitchen.
Yeah, that's
the
good.
pans being consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
When you said it was like, huh? And now today it's like, huh? It's just a little bit more. It's like, it's fun.
Yes.
Seems fun.
Because it's nothing else than the space being consciousness, right?
Right. Thank you.
Hi, Francis. I had a question or an experience I had a couple of times I wanted to clarify with you. I noticed a few times on days where I'm either lost in thought or there is a sense of,
On days?
On a day, or sometimes if I feel like I have been lost in thought or I have been suffering, and then there's this moment where there's a realization, I was in that particular state. And it came with this sense of, I was in this particular state for a period of time. It kind of seemed heavy, but had a sense of a duration of time. And somehow I was able to see that sense of time was in that particular thought. That if I accepted that thought that, okay, I've been in such and such state, somehow the thought itself had a sense of a duration of time, and the moment I saw it, that heaviness lifted, as if there was like a freshness, and that dullness and depressive state that seemed to be associated with, I've been in this state for such a long time and I feel tired, just left me. And I guess I was curious, that is the sense of time just like a thought?
There is no time, really. There are only moving objects, changing objects, changes. Time is also related to memory and has various aspects. There is an aspect which is an ordering of events along a line. And this ordering is just the result of memory. For instance, in the dream, we may recall past events that relate to the dream, but these events have never existed. In other words, their ordering in time is created in the moment in the moment itself as the dream gets created, right? So it's only the memory, if you will, that creates this ordering on time. Another aspect of time, which is the time of the physicists and the time of the clocks, is related to what physicists called periodic phenomena, meaning phenomena that kind of reproduce each other, like the Earth rotating around its axis in one day or rotating around the sun in 1 year. So there is a constant ratio between these events. In other words, it takes 365.25 rotation of the Earth around its axis to complete a rotation of the Earth around the Sun. So there is a constant ratio that doesn't change of 1 over 365.25, right? What is extraordinary, because here we are talking about the movement of two heavenly bodies of celestial mechanics, which is modelized by quantum mechanics. But what is extraordinary is that if you take, for instance, the frequency of light is a vibration, right, of the electromagnetic field, and this vibration corresponds at a certain number of repetition of pulsation per second. That's the frequency, right? So what is extraordinary is that phenomenon of light, which a priori is not really related to the other corpus of physics, which is mechanics, that there is also a constant ratio between, let's say, for a certain type of blue light, the number of vibration and the rotation of the Earth around its axis. In other words, in the 18th century, after the discovery of Newton's law, they were talking about the harmony of the spheres, right? That everything was in constant ratio. That was extraordinary. But it is even more extraordinary the fact that is not limited to the planets and the stars. That the light, quantum phenomena, that these constant ratios are there everywhere. And time is the fact, duration is the fact that there are these constant ratios. You see? That's a touch of harmony, in the physical world, which is kind of mind-blowing to me. But that's why we have time. and duration, and we can measure time. So it was just. Now you said something that kind of. I want to make a comment about. You said something. When I am lost in my thoughts, and I would say, what's wrong with being lost in your thoughts? You see, or more generally speaking, what's wrong with being lost in our thoughts if we are happily lost in our thoughts? You see, so because it seems that you are pointing at the fact that thoughts are the causes for misery, you know, and that being lost in your thoughts is a bad thing. What about a poet, you know, who is enjoying creating a poem, and he's lost in his thought, and all day long he lives with his poem, you know, like a pregnant woman in labor. You saw, and expecting the finished child to come at the end, you know, and he's totally happy doing what he's doing. And there is a lot of thought, and he say, oh no, this first verse, no, it's not good. Let's polish it a little more, and then something else comes to him, etc. And doing that, he's constantly happy. Or the scientist doing some research, or someone just caressing a pet project, you know, a businessman, you know, having, trying a new venture, you know, finding a new interesting way to make money, you know, or a gambler at a casino finding a new way to win. You see, and being happy in this enjoying the creative process. So it's not every thought which is detrimental to happiness. Therefore, if it is not every thought that are detrimental to happiness, thinking per se is not detrimental to happiness. It has to be only a certain type of thinking, but even this type of thinking in and by itself is not the cause. We have to ask ourselves, what is the cause of this type of thinking? And it is a belief, right, to be a separate entity. That's the cause. So we should enjoy being lost in thinking. I mean, if you have the choice, you know, between being lost in thinking and doing boring mindfulness all day long, what do you choose? I mean, if you are into S&M, then of course you choose mindfulness. Yes. You see what I mean? Then you say, okay, now I am going to touch my computer. I'm very aware of my hand moving to and which. Then I am coming closer and closer. Now I feel the contact of the hand with. Good luck with that. You know, I think to keep things simple, the first thing we should stay away of is this belief that happiness, there is a price to pay for it. That it is a zero-sum type of game, and that in order to be happy in the future, we have to suffer now. You see? And that will eliminate a lot of activities that are detrimental to our health. You see? And it makes sense. How could some kind of activities that we are not enjoying take us closer to happiness. A type of activity that we don't agree with, that we are resisting with all the fibers in our body. We can see that it is allergy. I mean, an activity such as writing an essay, just to take a random example. So we have to leave that to those who are still in this doingness, achieving goals, suffering, For me, I would like a planet of happy campers. Planet of happy campers.
Me too. Thank you.
It reminds me, watching you do the mindfulness, how you always clearly said that the mind was not invited to a glimpse. And it brings back memories of when I was trying to be mindful. I was so miserable each step of the way. Or when somebody said, oh, look, they have a big heart. So I would try and look at my heart, and I felt, oh my God, my heart is so small. I hate that person who has such a big heart. And it seems that when the mind, it's understood that the mind is not invited, then the mind is playing around, on the computer, creativity, how to invent a new equation or something like that. Then it's simple.
And sometimes people who are not serious, they do a good job to make people happy. Every morning, on weekdays, I listen on French radio. That's how I keep informed about French politics. There is a guy called Nicolas Canteloup, and this guy is merciless with all politicians. I mean, left, right, and he imitates them.
What's his name again?
Nicolas Canteloup. And he imitates them. And he, of course, about the events of the day, what they have done. And this guy is so... And he has a team of writers, of course. And it lasts for 10 minutes every day. And he makes my day. He truly makes my day. I'm not sure about the information about French politics, but he truly makes my day. And thanks God, there are people like that. So you could say, this guy is not serious, but this guy makes the day of millions of people, who are listening to him every morning, right? And that is for 10 minutes, So it's a great service to mankind. You see what I mean? It's not only that you have to be like Mother Teresa,
Hey, Francis. I have my biggest tendency or habit is my attention is biased towards head and the upper, this area. Is the very often. Because I have been living like it was much worse before, and because I was believing Sochi is so important. This is every order comes from here, so I try to kind of making this effort, and so that I can more focusing on thought, like this, keep making going. Otherwise thought to go, and I know thought. I didn't like it, so I kind of tried to, and still, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. My attention is very biased. The primarily head, and the secondary here to sometimes feedback, like the ping pong feedback, and also maintain, just making effort so I can keep the focusing in here, like. But so, and then when I don't like this, my thoughts are 50%, much less thought. I have much less thought, much less negative thought. But it's still kind of rare. My attention is biased, and I make all nonsense thought and negative thought, and yeah, I'm much less serious about that. But that's my symptom, and my question is, as a consciousness, we are open, and we don't have to focus on our thought. Without focusing, okay, brain. I use brain hard. Brain work hard maybe. So it maybe sensation maybe appear, but I can be relaxed and let it work hard or whatever, and I will not lose any thought, even if I don't. Yeah, even if the situation requires very, very serious, intense, emergency, important decision in like life-threatening decision, I have to think about it seriously sometimes. But I don't need to make I don't need to focus on thought. Maybe is it right?
What is the question? Is the question that I don't need to focus on thoughts?
I don't. Red light true? That's me. So yeah, my question was, we don't need to focus on. I don't need to make focus on my thought. Is it right? Do I have to focus on thought? No.
No. Focus on nothing. If you focus on nothing, then focusing will happen onto that which you are interested in.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So then follow your interest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Relax, follow your interest. Regarding these sensations in the head or in the chest, they are not an enemy that we have to get rid of. You can be perfectly happy with these sensations. And you'll see that when you're happy with these sensations, they actually change. They become like luminous and and like permeated with happiness and peace.
Yes.
They don't have to disappear. Mm-hmm. Your body, generally speaking, as it is perceived, doesn't have to disappear. The bodily sensations don't have to disappear. A happy body really is a body which is surrendered to the happiness, to the space, to the presence. It's not a body which has disappeared. It's important not to go into fights, not to see life as a fight. life is not a fight, it's a vacation. It's a journey, it's a cruise. Very expensive cruise. Very fancy cruise.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary says, when the person gets out of the way, everything seems to appear in its pure, authentic way. I'm wondering which is the I. It seems to be that the perceiver and the perceived become one. That nothing really changes, but rather becomes one. Would that be a proper conclusion? Conclusions, I don't know, but it would be a proper experience, yes. Only in the presence of division and separation is there conflict and of course agitation and sense of lack. Tom, you said that Shams Tabrizi, Rumi's teacher, would look at everything and turns it into the eternal. I didn't say that, Rumi said that. But if there is no separate self, and one is simply the witness, doesn't there still need to be some discrimination of the practical or right and wrong, because one can be the witness of being a bank robber, etc.? Well, assuming that there is an impersonal bank robber, this bank robber would be a good bank robber. And this bank robber would be my friend every day. So, and I think that he would be robbing the bank for good reason. Tom, you often talk about the wrong notion that a person thinks they are a man or a woman, when in fact they are consciousness. And of course, thinking to be a man or a woman causes the fear of dying as such. Does this eventually go away completely and get replaced by the knowing of being consciousness? Yes. Our default state is consciousness. And then this consciousness is like an actor that today is playing Macbeth, and tomorrow King Lear, and the day after is playing some other Molière character. So the one day he is a man, another day a woman, another day a father, a son, a daughter, a friend, a professional, etc. We change hats constantly. But ultimately we are not the hats. We are the head that can put all of these hats. So the consciousness is our real nature. Is our default state. Then it's okay to play the parts, to play the roles. It's okay, provided we know that they are roles we are playing, that they are not what we really are. So that deep inside, we don't take these roles too seriously, although we try to play the part well, but we are not identifying with it. We are playing the part the best we can, like a good actor, knowing that we are not the character. Tom again, not sure what is going on, but love the increase in synchronicity. It helps accepting life as it is. Tom says, so the small self or separate self never really changes, does it? Only the understanding grows. You see, I never talk about a small self, because there is no such a thing as a small self. We are only one self. The self, the Tom, who is hearing these words right now. That's the self. This self is not small, that's all. Be open to the possibilities that Tom, the self who is hearing these words, is the self of all beings. There is only one consciousness. Now, if by self you mean the false self, the object with which we identify, the human body-mind, well, this self really changes over time. It gets older, it gets different, and hopefully also it gets better. It gets better to the extent that we don't identify with it, then this body-mind then actualizes all of its potential. Any questions here? Shall I? No, I was hesitating because I had a warning sign that this message from Tom was from an unusual email address. But it sounded like from Tom. So the basic understanding is the self is unperturbed, and we are in ignorance. And if we are in ignorance, we are perturbed, or see a difference in others. Is that correct? If we are in ignorance, we simply believe to be something else than consciousness. That's all. We believe to be something else than the reality which is hearing these words. That's all there is to it. Tom, I have taken many intensives with Guru Mai and Siddha Yoga. I thought you were only with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Which, as far as I can tell, is a bhakti path. There is ample study on the Indian mythological gods such as Ganesha, Lakshmi, etc. The main point is there never seems to be an end to growth or fixing oneself versus a direct path which simply seems to turn one back to the essence of being silence. Is there a difference? Well, this I will leave the answer to that to the Pandits, but I think that in your question you enunciate the kind of difference there is between these two approaches. Then he says, being in ignorance is literally like being scared of one's own shadow. Good, yes. Good. No more questions here. We are not going to make it further. Oops.
In a way, it's not really my question. But it was something I was reading on the internet before I came.
Thank you for making a good effort to keep the dialogue alive.
The question was, in the apparent personality that a person appears, there is a personality, it's apparent, it's not what you really are. But if there's a point on a line where a person is not liberated and then they are free and they know who they are, in what ways does this apparent personality change and or stay the same?
What I said, it actualizes its potential. Things that were negative, become positive. For instance, one in ignorance may have had a low boiling point. You see, getting angry, exploding, Trump-like. Others, no, the same person liberating themselves from ignorance in their natural state. The same inherent quickness will be more translated as wit, for instance. So humor, it is the same characteristic, if you will, that was a negative that becomes, in fact, a quality. You see, so all the full spectrum of what you call the personality blossoms in this freedom. I can see that. I can see people who I haven't seen in 1 year and see them the next year, and already their demeanor is different. They are more present. They are more real, in a sense. They are less fuzzy. And they are more happy with their life.